Yes. Thank you, girls.
Sorry, my son.
Do you want tea? No, I'm fine with just water. Thank you.
Can I tell you one thing, one experience that I had lately when I was in a breathing? I was in a detox week,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very intense because we did from the morning till the evening.
Was that
really
nice?
detailed detox program,
sounds
yes.
okay.
And in that breathing session, I in once had him in front of me,
Uh-huh.
but a picture of him. It was so weird. I didn't even tell to nobody because I felt awkward.
Because it was
I
a photo?
saw Jesus. It was like in once the Antlitz, the
features.
yeah, it was like
Sorry, I have to. My son doesn't find the key, doesn't get into the house. Excuse me.
I really
Yeah.
like this drawing, actually.
It's my son's drawing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the same one.
It's the same one.
I really
Yeah.
love it.
The original is in my room. I'll show it to you. I just photocopied it because I thought it was so beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And he gave it to me as my birthday present a couple years ago.
But it's the
So
same
he's
one as
very
Susie's,
talented.
because whenever you
That's the one I brought to Susie.
And
I have to bring her one.
But
Yes.
this picture really speaks to me.
Yes.
It's so cool.
Yes, he's a very good drawer then your
He
son.
is. He is.
This is his talent.
So if I would like a copy, I just have
I just
to
give you a copy, of
ask
course.
you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so that was so bizarre for me.
Beautiful.
Because, I mean, you
Yes.
don't expect anything, you cannot expect anything. It's like a sort of what is coming out.
Yeah.
And there he was, and I thought,
Well, a photo. I'm gonna put this
I
because
just
it's gonna be dark.
Too dark for you to have
Yeah,
a
it is.
recording.
This gets. Can you please plug it there?
Yeah.
You know, see where the computer is.
Actually, I wanted to look at the recording, so I went. Oops. I went to the link, but it's not on this group. I asked to become a member of the group, and they accepted me, but the link is not there. The recording is not.
No, yeah, it's there.
Check
I saw it there,
I'll check
but
it
you
out.
have to go down. Ooh, yes, I can.
maybe with the candle it's a bit.
We're like
That's
this.
also not good. You have to
Maybe
put
I'll
that-
get this one. Hold on.
Is it longer?
Well, it's farther.
Yeah. That might be better.
I usually have the group here, but since it's just 3 of you. Yes, you see?
That helps me reading.
And let's see, let me think. How can we do this? Let's turn that light out. Can you turn it off and see if there's enough light? Yeah. I think that's great. A little bit. Let's just not use it. Okay. Here we are. So yeah, the link is there, but it's a group where many people publish. So you have to scroll down.
Okay, maybe because I wasn't a member yet, I couldn't. Maybe that's the thing. And then when they accepted me, I didn't check again.
It's A Course in Miracles Ibiza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked for invitation to become a member.
Yeah, so that group was opened by Steve Thompson, my ex-partner, who was visiting me today. I finished. That's why I couldn't come and see Susie. He came and he took me out for lunch. So, yeah, that was interesting. And it was he opened that group and then he went to England and I'm the one with that group. So, yeah, it's there for sure.
Okay.
But you just have to scroll down. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down until you come. Or we can look at it later. Go on the videos section, click on the videos, and then the videos will pop up. Yeah. Okay, very well then. So I haven't opened the topic for today yet because I haven't. I've been busy. Normally I do it in the morning and I send the topic, but I didn't. So it's been a different day, not being at Susie's and her not being our host. So we can let's just take a moment. I'll just leave the book here. And let's just consider what is our lesson for us today. Just take a quiet moment. Be grateful for the silence. Holy Spirit, Jesus, we are gathered here today on behalf of the teachings of love contained in the Course in Miracles. We are not in a rush. There is nowhere that we would rather be than here. We are open to discover what the lesson is today for us. Silence and stillness are a gift that we can take from you today. We accept it today fully, so you can guide us, show us what we need to look at today. Thank you for this quiet stillness. Thank you for your presence, Holy One. Thank you for your companionship and for the powerful companions that have come together today to be guided by you into the acceptance of the truth within. Thank you for the love, for the light, and for the blessings. Amen. Okay, very well. So usually for the past weeks that we've been working with the book, I think for a month now, maybe, I've been opening the book for Susie because it was her calling, no? But today she's not here with us, so I'll just open it for us wherever it opens, yes? And then we can see. So there is a very important lesson in A Course in Miracles that calls us all into the ministry of peace. You know how the people in several religions speak about a ministry, yes? Oh, for example, I follow a couple of singers. They are Mexican and they are Christian. And I love their music. So they speak of themselves of having a musical ministry. This was new to me because I'm not a religious person following any religion. But then there is a lesson in the course that says, I am among the ministers of God. And I am grateful that I have the means by which to recognize that I am free. I am amongst the ministers of God is the same as if to say I am among the ministers of love. There's no difference between God and love. Yes, it's lesson 154. 154. I have another German book if you want. Yes? Lesson 154. And it says, let us today be neither arrogant nor falsely humble. Because sometimes when we listen to something like this, I am among the ministers of God, it is as if I'm not worthy. How could I be among the ministers of God? Lesson 154. It's at the end. Aloka. Yeah, the lessons. It's in the section. 154. And I love this because this is what I truly believe in. You know how as the world moves and we speak of teachers or ministers, it is as if they know more than we do, as if the teachers, just because they are in front of a group, they know better than participants. And the course says and teaches over and over that the messengers or the ministers are those who first receive the messages for themselves. So as we become ministers of God by acceptance, what that means is that we are simply opening ourselves receptively to listen to the message and be a vehicle, an instrument for it to reach human ears. How do you feel about that?
Yep.
So we are told, let us today be neither arrogant nor falsely humble. That's the first sentence in the lesson 154. So the lesson says, I am among the ministers of God. This lesson brings very joyful memories to my heart. I was invited by a Swedish pastor in Malmö, in Sweden, to teach a course in miracles in what they call an inter-religious week. It's a week where the religion of Sweden, which I don't exactly know what it is, but I know they have pastors. So it's Christian, evangelic, I can't say, I apologize for not knowing that. But I was invited to teach in a church with the pastor of the church as my translator into Swedish. So, and I did this. I opened the book by chance, and this was the lesson. And it was like, wow. And I had this big cross behind me because I'm teaching in the church, in the Swedish church, and it was full. There was 30, 40 people there. And it was so beautiful to be able to acknowledge beyond the religion, beyond the structure. And this is something this particular church had as an inter-religious. I don't know how they learned about me and invited me. From Ibiza to Malmö. Okay, fine. So I went. And this was the topic, the ministers of God, as a symbol of the ministers of love, the ministers of peace. We go beyond all structures. We go beyond all religions. We are not speaking or teaching a religion or a dogma. We are the receivers of the messages of love. This is why this first phrase says, let's not be arrogant, as in, I am the minister of God and you are not. Okay, so we don't want to be arrogant, but we don't want to be falsely humble either. Oh no, I'm nothing. No. We are ministers of God, offering ourselves as messengers, instruments of light and love for the message to first arrive to us. And as we receive it for ourselves, it can extend through us. So this is said, if we go to paragraph 7 of this lesson, and I'm going to read a little bit of it. And it says, an earthly messenger fulfills his role by giving all his messages away. The messengers of God perform their part by their acceptance of his messages, with a capital H, as for themselves, and show they understand the messages by giving them away. Wow. That's just beautiful. They choose no roles that are not giving them by his authority. And so they gain by every message that they give away. So what could possibly be the message that God will have us extend as we accept it first for ourselves? The message is no other than the Holy Child is perfect and innocent. That there is no fear in surrender to love. That you are worthy. And this can be taught with no words, with all words, in different topics, but this is the basis of it. We cannot teach guilt because it will make us fearful. This is the last class. I remember it. Yeah, do you remember it? This is the one you missed? Yeah, right. It's there. It was very beautiful. It was about precisely not teaching guilt, not teaching fear, but to be messengers of God means to be accepting of God's message first for ourselves and then giving the message away. As we give the message away, we must have accepted it for ourselves first. Because we are not mailmen. You know, mailmen come around with the message and they haven't opened the envelope. So they're saying, no, this message is not for me, it's for you. And they hand it over without accepting it for themselves. So we're not mailmen. We are messengers that accept the message for ourselves first and then extend it. So there is a requirement to become a minister of God, and it is acceptance. Does it make sense? How do you feel about it?
You mean to accept the message?
For
First.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, for ourselves first. Yes. Is it hot in here a little bit?
No,
Are you okay?
Very good.
It's good? Okay. Whatever your appointed role may be, it was selected by the voice for God. This is very important because you guys are new to the course, and the voice for God is another way of calling the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit in the course is also called the voice for God. Because how could God have a voice if God sees not the world? So the means by which God communicates directly to us, we are told, is through revelation, which is through an experience that anyone can have, of course. But if we are working directly as a message, I'm sorry, this is what I was looking for.
You're hot.
Yes, it might be spiritual. No, don't worry about it. Yes, I think I have my fan in that brown box. Can you take a peek?
Sure.
Thank you. My abanico. It's my working box, so is there an abanico in there? Maybe there isn't. Don't worry about it. No big deal.
I can't see one.
No worries, no worries.
No.
I want to open the window.
No.
Or switch off the heater.
I don't want to do that. The moment I switch it off, that will be it. You know, I was.
Put it down, like.
Never mind. Don't worry. Don't be distracted by that. No big deal. I mean, if you're okay, then this is an inner heat. Maybe. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine. Okay, so the voice of God. What is the voice of God? Does God have a voice if God has not a body? Can that which is undivided have a voice? It does not have a voice like what we know is a voice. But the Course says that the Holy Spirit is the voice of God for us. It resonates with the eternal and abstract truth, and also can see our dream of separation. This is why the Holy Spirit is so important for us as Course students. The Holy Spirit is the voice within. We could call it the voice of intuition. Yes, so it says, whatever your appointed role may be, it was selected by the voice of God, whose function is to speak for you as well, seeing your strengths exactly as they are and equally aware of where they can be best applied for what, to whom, and when. He chooses and accepts your part for you. Interesting, because lesson 154, I am among the ministers of God, mentions here a lesson that is lesson 71, if I remember correctly. Let's take a peek at lesson 71. Yes, lesson 71, paragraph 9. 71, paragraph 9. You see that those three.
We had those.
Yeah, we've spoken about them before. The three questions. Yes, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? This is lesson 71. But if we go to the lesson we are in now, 154, look what it says here in paragraph 2, phrase number 2. It says, seeing your strengths exactly as they are and equally aware of where they can be best applied, for what, to whom, and when. He chooses and accepts your part for you. When it says here, for how they can best be applied, responds to, what would you have me do? And the Holy Spirit will answer. For what? Where would you have me go? To whom and when? What would you have me say, and to whom? Can you see how these two are linked together?
Mm-hmm.
These two lessons? Can you see it, Heike?
Mm-hmm.
So what it's telling us, again, as ministers of love, is that we serve only proportionally to our surrender to the voice of God, to the Holy Spirit. We become ministers of God when we are no longer afraid of surrendering ourselves to be guided. Where would you have me go? And then we listen. What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? And this is the mantra. What should I do? Where should I go? What should I say, and to whom? And this mantra for me is in lesson 71, but here it is called forth again so that we can acknowledge not falsely humble or arrogant, but with the truth that it entails about us. I am a minister of God. What else does it say? I am grateful that I have the means by which to recognize that I am free. Wow. God has joined his Son in this, and thus his Son becomes his messenger of unity. This is paragraph 3. The last line. God has joined his Son in this, and thus his Son becomes his messenger. Are you aware that when you choose this role and accept it, God has joined you with this? We are not arrogant, we are not falsely humble. We just accept our eternal truth, even though we might not yet remember it. But sometimes, and many times with the Course in Miracles, acceptance comes to us before recognition. This is a tip when we study the Course, and this is something I discovered through time, because when I started studying the Course, I was young and there were no groups where I lived. I didn't even know there were groups. This was back in 1990. So there were things I read and things that I did not understand. So I thought, wow, so how am I going to work around this? And very gently, very slowly, I discovered that it was not a question of understanding. It was a question of acceptance. Like, for example, when you go to the gym for the first time and there's a trainer, or you're going to take a class and they say, do this. And you're saying, why do I have to do that? I don't understand it. And the trainer says, no worries. Just do it. Accept it. And as you go, you will see the purpose of it. This is the basis for A Course in Miracles. And as we practice acceptance, the Course becomes lighter and easier. Does anybody have this experience yet with the Course? No. Acceptance, you read and you say, oh, I don't understand this. Or I don't agree. Or I don't like it. And it's interesting that in the first lessons, the first introduction to the workbook, it says, I'll read it for you, because this is part of the way that it becomes simpler for you. We go at the beginning of the workbook lesson into the introduction. Let's go to the back. Paragraph 4 of the introduction. I don't know why I'm so jumpy today, but it's just how it's happening, you know. So we go in at introduction of the workbook for students. Yeah. Before lesson 1, right there. Introduction. Let's go to paragraph 8. Maybe you want to help Aloka?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Because she doesn't work the book very well yet. Workbook.
It's not yet.
Yeah, you have to go past the chapters, past the chapters.
Yeah.
Okay, there. Paragraph 8. 8, there.
Yes.
Paragraph 8. And I will read that for you, and we can feel it. And it says, some of the ideas the workbook presents you will find hard to believe, and others may seem to be quite startling. This does not matter. You are merely asked to apply the ideas as you are directed to do so. You are not asked to judge them at all. You are asked only to use them. It is their use that will give them meaning to you and will show you that they are true. This is called acceptance. It's saying, okay, I will do them. I will do as I'm told. And as I do, as I am told, they bring the meaning of them rises up to me. So as we practice the course and we practice acceptance, the experience of the course changes for the better. So when I'm called as a minister of God, I am not required to understand what that means. I'm only required to accept it. What do you think?
Interesting.
Yes. Can you see it as a possibility, or is it very
Yeah.
challenging?
Mhm.
Yes. I am
To be open.
a minister of
It's a surrender.
God. A minister of God is no other than a minister of love. How can that be wrong? Even if I don't quite understand what it means, how can exactly, how can anything unhappy derive from that? Because this is where the ego says, oh, but you need to explain to me, what does that mean before I accept this role? But we don't want to listen to that voice asking us for justification. We definitely want to look inside and listen to the voice that says, you are a minister of God. You are a minister of love. You are a minister of peace. And then just sit with it. Let it cradle you. Like candy. You know what I'm talking about, yes? Yeah, this is what this is. Beautiful that we were invited to look at this today. I loved it because for me it's such a beautiful memory to be accepting of this invitation. I'm invited only to teach what I have accepted for myself. As a minister of love, then I can only teach love because that's what I am. And I will not be arrogant about this or falsely humble. I will only teach innocence because that's what I am. And I will not be arrogant about it. When I teach it, it does not mean that I am the innocent one. It only means that I have accepted my innocence and I'm here to remind you of yours. And this is the messenger. This is the minister of love that recognizes the same characteristic in everyone as the ones he or she is accepting for himself. This is key because if we teach differences, then we are lost in the smoke of the spiritual ego that says that you are better than the others. That because you have been called to this ministry, you know more than the others. And this is not the way of the teaching of the Course in Miracles. The way of the teaching is by inspiration, extension, acknowledgement, and acceptance of myself.
How do you, I have to ask something about it. How do you deal with resistance on sharing information? It's like what I had now twice. After the first lesson, I think it was the second, we talked profoundly about the difference between magic and miracle.
Mm-hmm. That was the second class, I think.
That was the second class. And it took me a little bit to let it sink in, and then I accepted and I understood the fine-tuning between these two. But after the course, going home and sharing it with my loved one, I got resistance from his side. He's like,
yes.
Oh, no. And it's not that I wanted to persuade or anything, I just wanted to share what I just had learned and I saw, but there was resistance on his behalf. And then I just closed up. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I had the same last week again.
Yeah.
I spoke to this lovely girl and she was going on, it's like, oh, it's such a magic place and a magic party. And then I said, well, maybe you have to think about, is it magic or is it miracle? And again, she was, very resistant to these things. And I'm just wondering, should I keep it to myself, even if I want to share this newfound thing?
Yes.
What do I do with resistance?
Well, yes. The first
As
thing.
a messenger.
Yes.
I accept the role.
Yes. Here, the only voice that is spoken of is the voice of God, not your voice
Mhm.
as an independent agent.
Mhm.
Okay, so first of all, and this is very interesting and you will find it very enlightening, the resistance, like you very well called it, is my own resistance. It's not the other's resistance, but my own. Remember, we've been talking about projection, yes? How everything I see is my own reflection of myself. So, as a newcomer to the Course in Miracles, with your passion and your interest, of course, there are aspects of you that are resistant,
Mhm.
that really, want to run away, hell from it, right? And then we simply find a blank screen and project that there. I tell you, this is the way it is. Because through with so many years as a Course in Miracles, it's quite amazing. It's quite amazing, but you will see it happen. I've seen here in Ibiza so many people go through this with the same question, And for me, it's been a long time, but at the very, very, very beginning, when I first started studying the Course, I already had such a devotion for Jesus that everybody I knew found it so natural that I was doing the Course in Miracles. I had zero resistance. And I worked for an oil company, British Petroleum. And I would talk to my boss, and sometimes he would say, "What is it that you do?" Because he felt something. And I said, "Well, I didn't quite say." And he says, "Well, I have this meeting. Could you do something for us so that we can relax like you?" I had the president of BP Venezuela asking me to do that you do. No resistance whatsoever. None. But I could see that I was shameless. You asked me about God, I would talk about God, and there was never a no in there. But I have found resistance in my life in other areas. Not with regards to the Course, but with regards to other things, where I see the resistance and I say, all right. And I always look for it in my mind, to let it go in my mind, to let it go in my heart, to let it go there where it originated. Then, of course, you start studying A Course in Miracles. Imagine it's not A Course in Miracles. Imagine it's German. And you have an Argentinian boyfriend. And you come and you say, the German class, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And you tell him what you were learning. And he's going like, okay, I'm not interested. They go, okay, fine. And that you understand very easily. But with the Course, somehow there's a part of us that wants to push it onto the others. But you were not called to do that.
I'm not going to share my enthusiasm of what I just
But
discovered.
the other, but it's the same if you go into a cooking class or into a German class or into gardening.
So I should just keep it to myself.
I would think so.
If people ask me
if
how
they
it is
ask
and if I
you,
want to share something.
Well, if they ask you, observe yourself. How can I? Because it's very subtle. Let's see if I can. If what I'm going to say, I can express it many times when we've spoken so many times with the Ibiza group when they started, because many people were so excited to have a teacher on the island, because some people had the book and had no teacher. So when we first start to study and somebody asks me, there is a sense of specialness. I don't know if you can observe this. I don't know how it is for you, but there is a sense of specialness. Wow, I'm studying this. Amazing. And there is, can you relate to this, to the sense of specialness? I feel a little bit better than you, a little bit more special than you. And then when you ask me, I want to give it to you, but it's not a loving giving. It's a giving where I'm special and I want to extend it to you. So it's a form of attack. It's very subtle, very subtle. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So now at this point in my training, I observe that still happens, that I see myself wanting to, and I pull back. Because what is more important, to just have a loving encounter with my brother or sister, or to be special and separate myself? So there's
Yeah.
this course is about discovering how I'm doing things. But I tell you, if what you are doing or saying is coming from the love, that's what you will get. If that's not what you're getting, that's not what you gave.
Then my message is in the wrong way. Yeah.
It's subtle, It's, for example, if I go out in the garden and I plant potatoes, what do you think I'll get? Potatoes, right?
Potatoes.
How many times have I gone out and said, "Hi, kid, I planted roses. Come and see my roses." And then there's a potato coming up. I said, "Oh, I didn't plant that." "Yes, you did. You told me you planted roses there." "Yeah, but I'm getting potatoes." So I thought I planted roses, but I only know what I planted by what is coming back. So this is the same. If I'm coming to you with, "Oh, my love," that's what I should be getting. If I'm not getting that, then there was an attack thought, and I need to pull back and observe and be humbled by the experience and say, and it's interesting, I'm sorry with myself is, oh, right. And then I will begin to accept and understand how this book actually works, because it's cleaning through all my masks, through my mask. It's going through to the core. And of course, we all have specialness. We all have masks. We all have hidden desires. We all have dark corners. And those are the first to be placed, obviously, before us in our loved ones. When I was I had been studying the course for a long time, and maybe 2 or 3 years, and my children were around 3. And because I studied the course more or less at the time I had the children. So, and at that time, I discovered, how was it? No, my children were older, maybe 5. So I discovered a group where there was a guy. I'm making mistakes with the timing, but don't worry about the timing. So I discovered a group where there was a guy teaching, and I had such a crush on this guy. So I wanted to go to all his classes. And I went, and my mom would come and babysit. And then one day my son, the boy, he said, "I don't want you to go to that class." And I said, "Okay, fine, I won't go." I stayed with him. I waited until he went to sleep, and I went to the class. I arrived late. And I mentioned this to the teacher. And he says, "My son doesn't want me to come." And he said, "Don't come." I say, "What do you mean?" I said, "Why is he saying don't come? What aspect of you is showing you this?" And I said, "Oh, well, I do feel guilty." I could hear this hidden voice feeling guilty because I'm leaving him. Yes? So he said, "Don't come. Don't bring your guilt here. Stay home and deal with it." So I stayed home. I didn't go to the classes. I stayed home. I looked at it. I realized that every time I went to the class, I excluded my children and my family. They were in a class and they were out. So gently, I started including them in my prayers, in my reading, including them. Even though they were not studying the course, in my mind, I was including them. And then maybe after a month or so, my son, the same person, yes, the same boy, came to me and says, "You're not going to your class?" And I said, "I don't know. Am I?" As if I was talking to myself in the mirror. And he said, "Yeah, Mom, go. You're always so happy when you go. Go." And I said, "Yes, I healed my mind. Had nothing to do with him. So this is basic as course students, you know? We have to acknowledge that everything we see is for our own benefit, to discover ourselves, to see ourselves in the other. Yes, does this make sense?
What I don't understand, okay, I understand the attack, yeah, and you describe it like that, and that you get mirrored, yeah.
Mhm.
But the attack seemed to be, let's say, in her case, as if she has a resistance there. Because the
Resistant.
resistance mirrored from the outside. And I don't see this resistance then, because you're attacking, let's say, you have a resistance. And you're not
Yeah, but
aware
you're
of it.
not attacking like.
Yeah, no. Attacking means I tell you something about it without he actually asking me or something. That's what
No,
you
or
described
no,
now.
no, no. Let's imagine. Let's do it here. Tell me, what did he say when you said, "Oh, the course is so beautiful," and da 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 da, and then what did he
He
say?
said, what was the biggest lesson you took away from it today?
Uh-huh. And
And then I explained the difference between miracle and magic.
okay, and he said, "Ah."
And then he's like, what do you mean? And then I tried to explain that a magic is something you put outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a magic pill you could give something outside of you, and miracles internal. And he just couldn't relate to it at all.
Yes.
He's like, oh,
So let's
he's very British. He's like, such a bullshit load of crap. I want to speak to your teacher. Next time I'll come with you.
Yes, bring him.
Okay, I can show you the recording, but I didn't even go there.
Okay, so let's imagine this, oh, such a bullshit, and that's what I'm getting back, right? But as before, 10 minutes before, 15 minutes before, I'm explaining to you the miracle as, and this is where she related, as it is happening. What I'm saying is not attack, but what I'm feeling just a little bit better than you. Because I just discovered something that you don't know. And I want to give it to you, not as a gift, but as a separation option.
Yes.
And this is the attack. It's very subtle.
Yeah, I understand it, but I don't see the resistance, that it's mirrored from the outside. What is there? Where is the resistance?
Well, in her case, the other person is saying, "Oh, that's such crap, such bullshit." When somebody comes and tells me this, imagine myself in the mirror saying, "Oh, it's such crap, it's such bullshit." But I'm not seeing my face, I'm seeing her face, but it's coming to me. So my training, which nobody's here is trained yet, but my training would say, oh, wow, where is this thought that he is mirroring back to me? This is my own resistance, which seems to be his, but it's my own. As it get, no?
I don't understand it. Why she has resistance? She was sharing something.
Yes.
Yeah, and why would she have resistance?
Yes, because everything I see is not outside of me.
That's, if you can accept that as a rule.
Yes.
I can accept that, but I don't accept. I understand it in this moment. I know many times that the outside mirrors you what you maybe not ready to see inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but in this moment, I don't understand it.
If someone in front of you tells you that what you said, what you decided to study so beautifully is a bunch of crap, yes? How do you take it? As a truth, as an attack, or as a mirror of your own resistance? You yourself saying, like the experience I was talking about my son, he said, "I don't want you to go." And the teacher, when I went and shared this with him, he said, "Well, don't come." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because that's your own call to not come. That boy is showing you your own resistance with his words." And then when he said that, I said, "Is there? Oh, right. I did find inside of me a voice that said, don't go." because I was feeling guilty. She found her own voice. When I said maybe there's a little bit of arrogance or specialness, and you kind of saw it within you, no?
Mhm.
This is the resistance. Maybe the problem is the word resistance. Don't use the word resistance.
The mirror, maybe more.
Yes.
Mm.
She calls it resistance because what I'm seeing in the other
Mm.
is a form of attack, apparently.
Mhm.
Yes, it's
Okay.
resisting. I don't want it. Don't tell me anything. It's crap. So imagine that this is you in front of a mirror saying, no, don't tell me about that. That's bullshit. That's crap. So it seems to be his, but it's my own mirroring to him. That's why we call it a resistance. More or less. It's not an easy thing. But do you more or less get the idea?
I do get it completely. I just don't always see it. That
Okay,
always what
well-
the outside mirrors you is yours. Because sometimes people react on their own thing, and what I feel then is if I react, if I get insecure, then they mirror me that I'm not
Yes.
completely convinced. Then I can understand there's a resistance. Yeah.
But
But if
there's
somebody mirrors me, this is nonsense, and I feel like, okay, but I love it and I'm good, then he can have his opinion,
Yes.
and I am in peace with myself because I can never match that all opinions will mirror me everything.
But this is the
diverse.
point.
Yeah.
She was not okay with it. Because if she was okay with it, it's fine.
I was, and I just said, okay, let's agree to disagree on the subject.
And you were happy with it?
That's fine. Yeah.
But then why did you see it as a resistance?
But because it happened the second time, last weekend I was sharing it again.
And how did you
I thought,
feel about
this
it?
is a second person who's
Uh-huh.
is not believing, they don't have to believe what I
Yes.
say. It's just
No.
sharing. But for some reason, it might not come across. In
The idea
way
of the
that I
projection
want it
is very extreme. And we have to practice it over and over and train to actually get it. For example, I rent a room to a lovely girl who has a temper. She has a temper. And it's funny because she spits her temper, blah, 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 and I hear her and I don't resonate with that at all. I don't get mad. I don't defend myself. Sometimes she's a bit nasty. I know that it has nothing to do with me. I will stay in my peace. And then she comes around and apologizes. And it happens over and over and over, So I said, am I bothered by this? When it's happening, I'm not bothered. I see a struggle and I'm there just to hold the space. If I got upset and thought, then this is my own resistance, my own reflection. But in my case, I'm just taking a very deep breath and I'm reflecting peace back to her as a minister of God. I don't do it on purpose. It just happens. And she is so grateful. It takes her about 10 minutes. She goes to her room, comes back and says, always. I mean, she's lived here almost a year. And every time she does it, she comes back and she says, I love you so much. I'm so sorry. I'm so happy that you cope with my temper. And I said, yeah, but I don't quite like to do that all the time. Maybe you want to, I'm doing my best, and it's fine. And she doesn't feel offended. There's no friction between us, which there could be,
Can spiral out completely.
Absolutely. So this is,
that's what I mean. Exactly.
Yes,
so
but
she
she's
mirrors
not-
you something, but
No.
because it's not in you, you're not reacting.
so she's not, what is she mirroring me? This is the thing. There is a difference as teachers, ministers of God, students of the Course of Miracles, yes? You can see love when your mind is trained. You can see love, which mirrors your love, or a call for love. In both circumstances, it's love. If you see something else, it's a mirror of your own resistances. So I can see it very clearly in this example that I'm giving you. In her, I can see a call for love. It's like when she gets really upset, I don't understand it. Please give me love. and I can feel it. Just I don't control it. It's just natural. And she gets it and comes back in gratitude. So I know by the result what was happening between us. So the mirror is if I see love, it's a mirror of my love. How can I mirror my own love? By accepting it. I am the love. What will I see? Love. If I don't see love, I see a call for love, then I will place it there as my own call. But I will place it there because it's a part of myself. There is no judgment. Oh, she's so anxious and I'm so perfect. There's a joining, a non-judgmental joining, where love finds itself and fulfills itself. But if you have a resistance, or what is resonating is attack and whatnot, then this is where the discomfort happens. It can be a big discomfort or a little discomfort. It can be a frustration, like, what's happening? That, I'm not getting the response I want. If I'm not getting the response I want, it's because I planted potatoes and was expecting roses, And for me, for example, in this point in my training, if I'm not getting the roses that I thought I planted, I take 7 steps back and go back inside and find that potato seed to pluck it out. Am I making sense with that? I observe where, and this is part of the ministry. It's a ministry of love when we accept that the message is actually for ourselves. Perhaps you are so happy, and this happens a lot. Prasuna had a lot of that when she started, Maybe she can share with you some of her experiences. And I kept telling you, who are you trying to convince? Who are you trying to teach? Take a step back and let it happen for you. It doesn't need to go out. Let it happen for you, because it is for you. Yeah. Yes, do you resonate with that? So it's so important, and this is why probably this is very beautiful. I think I use many of the phrases in this lesson. I haven't read it for a while. I don't even own an orange highlighter, so I can tell that this was a long time ago. Because now I'm working with the blue and the green. So the lesson, the papers become highlighted with a different color. But you see, we are called messengers of God. Yes? Let's look at paragraph 7, line 2. The messengers of God perform their part by their acceptance of his messages. Lesson 154. 154, paragraph 7.
Line 2.
The messengers of God perform their part by their acceptance of his messages. And what are his messages? What is there for me to accept? His messages are always about love and all the characteristics that resonate with that, all the synonyms to God's love, to God's peace, to God's truth. And his messages are to be accepted for themselves. First, for me. I don't need to convince anyone or teach them to anyone. First, for me. And if we go down a little bit, it says in paragraph 11, line 2, he needs our voice, that he may speak through us. He needs our hands to hold his messages and carry them to those whom he appoints. He needs our feet to bring us where he wills. You see where we're... That those who wait in misery may be at last delivered. And he needs our will united with his own, that we may be the true receivers of the gifts he gives. So this is in this line or in this paragraph, there's some mixture. If you're read it and are able to perceive the subtlety of it, he's telling you he needs your voice for the message to go, and he needs your hands so you can take the message and deliver it. And then it says, after he says you deliver it, and he needs your feet to bring us and to those who wait in misery. So it's telling you, apparently, that you are taking something to someone. And then it closes because he needs us that we may be the true receivers of the gifts. So in one idea, there's the idea of giving and receiving. In order to be the true giver, you first have to be the true receiver. And this is the base of it all. To know that you are a receiver of the gift. And once you have received it, you cannot refrain it. You cannot hold it. It will be used through you. It will extend, but it is aimed at you. It's not aimed at the others. We are not ministers of God for the others. We are ministers of God first for ourselves, so we may receive all the gifts that are given to us. And as we receive them, we offer our voice to be used for others. But first it's for us. So how can we give something that we have not received? It is told over and over throughout the course, giving is receiving. What happens first? The receiving part happens first. And the receiving part happens first, and the giving happens by the hand of the Holy Spirit, by the hand of the voice that speaks to us from within. And it says here very sweetly, it says, hold on. He needs our voice that he may speak through us. It is not us speaking. It is his voice through us. Wow. So we're all going to be channeling Jesus here. Well, his message, yes. It's not such a complicated message. It's love to love, innocence to innocence. This is why it's so important to know thyself. And this know thyself doesn't mean to know that you make mistakes or that you lie, or because this is not your true self. When we do this journey within, we go past through the dark tunnel of all the ideas that we have about ourselves, and we reach a point where we acknowledge the light in us. And then we can be of true service. But it's not us speaking. We are only offering our voice to be used for the message to come through. And then it says, to those whom he appoints. Who is this he who is going to appoint the listeners of his voice through me? That's the order. Who is he appointing? This he appoints. He appoints those who will listen to him through my voice. So it's not my doing, is it? It's not of my doing. So sometimes it will be 3, and sometimes it will be 150. You know? So this is why we are called not to be arrogant about it, but not to be falsely humble. It is a big deal, but it's not different to the next one. It is a big deal, but not only me, but also all of you. This is why we are called not to be arrogant, not to think that we can change the perfection of creation. To change the perfection of creation would be to look down upon someone and believe that they were different to you. Can we see the arrogance in that? So we are being taught constantly, if we accept. We are being told constantly, if we are receptive, to accept this message over and over and over until it takes over and we are no longer afraid. Yes? So we are told, let us but learn this lesson today. We will not recognize what we receive until we give it. You have heard this said 100 times, and yet belief is lacking still. But this be sure, until belief is given it, you will receive 1,000 miracles and then receive 1,000 more. You will not acknowledge that you have received the gift until you give it. Let me go back to the experience with my girl who rents the room. Yes. At the beginning, when I saw this temper, I thought, oops, I'm not sure I'm gonna like this. Yes. And then I realized that there was something within me that I had to share, and it was the peace of God. The acceptance of innocence. And I realized that she is such a gift to me because she shows me what I have accepted. Because in this presence, it's flowing and I can see the results of it. So it would not flow if I had not accepted it first. Am I making sense? Yeah. So this is what this is. This is when we have a ministry. This is when we are ministers of God. We are shamelessly sharing the gift that we have received, but it's not necessarily in words. For example, in this conversation with her, she was complaining about something. And I told her, it's so funny. I was telling my friend Steve today, and he said, you told her that? And I said, yeah, but it came from such a loving space that she took it on so well. I told her, listen, girl, you live in heaven. Look at this house. Look at this quietness. Look at this light. Look at your beautiful, it's a huge room with a chimney inside. And this and this and this. And you are complaining. It doesn't get any better than this. And it's cheap. It's not even expensive. So if you're not happy with it, I am so happy to have you leave. Just leave. Because I cannot give you anything else. We had this conversation, And Steve was telling me, did she get upset? He said, no. She took it as I was saying it. And it was out of believing, I was believing it totally. I'm so happy with the house, with the room, with the offer. I said, if you don't like it, I'm perfectly okay with it. No, I love it. And I love you, but this and that and that. I can't do anything about the mosquitoes, about ants, it's just the woods, If you don't like it, move to an apartment in Santa Eulalia and you will not have that, but I can't do anything else, So, but it was such an honest, apparently straightening conversation, but it was not. It was very loving and honest and accompanying. And I want to have that in all my conversations. So she gives me this gift. Just by her presence, it shows me that if I'm giving this, I must have received this. I want everyone talking to me the way I talk to her, because it's peaceful. And I have to be honest, I'm not always in my best terms. Sometimes, something might get late or something might be broken or with the car or whatever. And then I might get a little, and I always want to find someone speaking to me the way I speak to her. So she gives me this. Am I making sense?
Yes.
So this is what this entails when we speak of the ministers of God. Do you see yourself as a minister of God?
Yes.
The possibility, yes?
Not yet.
But as a possibility.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, Heike? Absolutely. And it says, the messengers, would you receive the messages of God? Let's look at paragraph 8. Would you receive the messages of God? Line 1, paragraph 8. Can you see the numbers, Aluka?
Still in this.
Es ist gleich in Paragraph 8.
Here.
Yes.
54.
Would you?
154.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can highlight it if you want. You want to highlight it?
It's okay.
Would you receive the messages of God? And this is a trick, because you might say, yes, I want to receive it. That might not be true. Because the messages of God are saying you are not right. Only love is right. And the spiritual ego might very quickly say, oh yes, I agree. False. Because we all want to be right until we surrender. For example, in this situation where I'm having this conversation with my friend, yes, I could say, she is such a nagging bitch. I'm going to ask her to leave. I'm tired. Every other week she tells me something. Oh, these are the whatever, I could say she's a nagging bitch and lose the gift. Because I want to be right. And whoever is looking at it, it will be justified. Because there is this but then if I want to be right, I'm not receiving God's gift. I'm not receiving God's message that is telling me she's innocent, just like you. She does the best she can, just like you. This is God's message. So the question is, are you willing? Where is it? Would you receive the messages of God? Observe how, in many aspects of your life, the answer has been no. Because I want to be right about my landlady. I want to be right about my ex-husband. I want to be right about my pot-smoking son. I am right. When I am right, the message of God is lost. Am I making sense? Carolina, how do you see
you
it?
are. It's just a really hard one for me to
Well, it is lesson 1 5.
learn.
Yes. But it doesn't.
Because I tend to be right my whole life. So now I have to stop.
It is in your best interest
Yeah, usually I'm
not to be right.
I'm always right.
But it is.
I don't rub it in, but I know in the end I'm always right. It's horrible.
Well, it's painful.
This is going to be a hard one.
But just for today, can you see it? It's a spark. Yes, that shines on this idea that being right is lightful when being right is sheer darkness. Yes? How does it feel for you,
Being
Aluka?
right is coming from often from a space of ego.
From
And as
separation.
much as you are identified with the ego, then much is kind of painful to let go, but of course, yeah.
Yes.
or
But this is the difficult.
to say, okay, I'm wrong, or okay, I don't have to be right, or yeah, to let something else be there more than what you think who
Yes.
you are.
This is the challenge. This is a challenge, especially if you're a wife or a partner, or if you're a mother, or if you own a pet. Or, by the way, did the cat leave? It's not here, is it?
I think she's outside his.
Yeah, okay. So, yes. So, wow. Would you receive the messages of God? It's a big one. Some people say, of course. And whenever I get people who say, of course, I say, stop, because you're lying. I don't believe in the of course. I don't believe in it, because it's the ego getting, pass the page. Don't look at that, because we're going to lose something. Oh, yeah, we're going to lose being right. And I tell you, in my character has been a very controlling character. I was a single parent, divorced when my children were very small, and my children's father left the country. So I was left to raise my twins by myself. And then my parents got old. So I had the twins and the parents. And my brother said, no, I'm not taking care of the parents. I'm sorry, I'm not going to Venezuela. I'm scared. So that's up to you. So I had twins and parents all to myself. So I was very controlling, very stressed, and in suffering, in hardship, in scarcity, until this lesson came very clearly into my mind. Do not be right about your bastard spouse. Do not be right about that son of a bitch of your brother. Do not be right. And I started to experience the miracle of not being right. It's such a relief to be able to see only perfection, to realize how everything is set in a script that is written only to support your individual homecoming back to all is perfect. This is home. All is perfect. All is perfect the way it is. And then we face our life challenges. Yes, the death of a loved one, immigration, whatever, financial things, health issues. And there is a sense of, I don't want to be right about this. And it becomes who you are. And then you begin to receive the messages of God. You truly begin to serve as an instrument for the voice of truth to reach human ears. And the voice of truth reaching human ears speaks only of innocence, only of perfection, only of love. It is never right about anything else. Can you see that? How it benefits each one of us. Aloka, how does it feel for you?
Yeah, it's good.
Heike, you're very quiet today.
Yeah, no, I'm receiving.
Yeah, it's making sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. So again, the question, would you receive the messages of God? Would you see innocence in everything? And why is this? Like, I want to guide you back to the manual for teacher, which is after lesson 300 and something. In the back, there is a book that begins like this, manual for teachers, yes? Yes. Heike?
Yeah.
And for teachers. Yes. And then if you go into the introduction,
Für Lehrer.
Ja, für Lehrer und dann which
introduction, and then number 1, who are God's teachers? Who, it's like saying, who are the ministers of God? Yes?
Yeah.
Number 1, right after the introduction to the manual for teachers,
Yeah.
number 1, who are God's teachers? And let's go to paragraph 3. It says, there is a course for every teacher of God. We could say there is a course for every minister of God. The form of the course varies greatly, and so do the particular teaching aids involved. But the content of the teaching of the course never changes. Its central theme is always God's Son is guiltless, and in his innocence is his salvation. That's it. This is what we've been talking about. There is no other message, because if this is the only thing that the teacher of God is going to teach, it's because that is the only message he is receiving. How do we teach this? Or how does our ministry flow? It doesn't matter the form. It doesn't matter the form of the course varies greatly. Maybe you teach it through food. Maybe you teach it through music and dance. Maybe you teach it through massage. It doesn't matter the form it takes, but the content of what you are teaching is the content of your message. And the message is God's Son is guiltless, and in his innocence is his salvation, comma, and my own. How can I feel when every time I look at someone, I experience his guiltlessness? Just imagine. You raise your vision and you look at someone and you feel the guiltlessness, the innocence. This is what I feel with my girl. She shows me this in my mind. It's not something you can control. You can't force it upon yourself. You must have accepted this lesson. Because I look at her and she's going, and I see her and it warms my heart. I can see past that. So it's not a vision of the physical eye. Because if I recorded it and uploaded it on YouTube, oh my gosh, But there's a vision that is past that. I'm sure you've had this experience. Mm-hmm. You see what am I seeing this with? You're seeing with the true vision. And we are all granted this occasionally, just so that we don't forget our source. But the course is aimed at training us to see this all the time, at all times, with everyone. So would you, if we go back to lesson 154, would you receive the messages of God? Would you be one of his ministers? So it has nothing to do with the preaching. It has nothing to do with the preaching. And it has all to do with the acceptance and this vision. You know how many times you go to places and somebody looks at you and loves you, or somebody looks at you and you feel like shit, just with a little, and there's a judgment there. And you, oh man, somebody just stabbed me in the heart. And because you knew for a moment they were not seeing you. They were seeing their own projection. their own fear, their own hatred, their own association to the past, bringing it to this moment because you're blonde and you remind me of someone who abandoned me or whatever, you know? So what this teaches us is, if I'm not seeing innocence, if I'm not seeing guiltlessness, I'm the one who made the mistake. This is why I can't be right. So it's a full circle. Can you see the full circle? Aloka?
Yeah, so when I can see the person that judges me, when I take his judgment, I am not in love. Right, that's what you say?
Yes.
Take it, yeah.
But if I can see him still beyond his judgment to me.
Yes. Then you have received this message. Yes. Because, first, again, this idea with this girl, you know, if I was to see only the error, let's say, the error, if I stood and stayed there, I would be in pain. But my training, the nature of it, automatically takes me to the innocence, where I see she's doing the best she can in this given time. So I don't have to be right about anything but her innocence.
Yeah, you believe in the good of everybody.
Yes.
You don't believe what they're giving out and how they judge you and what they're projecting on you. You see beyond their own
Yes. Ideas of themselves. Yes. Yes. And this is when you can apparently bring the best out of everyone. But not everyone will want you around. You know why? No? Because not everybody wants to be innocent and happy.
So, and also they don't get maybe the response that they were hoping for.
So it's okay.
They need to be
So
in
they
this
can also
game.
be,
Yes,
yeah,
it's fine.
it's aggravating because they're like lashing out, and obviously they want a response, and if it's not the response that they expected,
That's fine. You can walk away with your gift and then try elsewhere. No problem. As long as you are peaceful and happy, you don't have to push that gift on anyone because everyone will get that gift. Perhaps this is not the right time. And for us as ministers of God, it is not for us to decide the time. When is it going to happen? If it's not happening now, I'll wait for the next moment, and it is fine. And we don't know how anyone will react because we don't know the timing. Spiritual people necessarily are not the receptive ones. I have to give you this testimonial, which was very interesting for me. When this originally started happening for me, I was in Seville one night, and it was very dark and late. I was going to take the owl bus, the bus that goes around late after midnight, and I had no money to go on a taxi. So I'm standing there in the bus stop at maybe 1 a.m, and I see a gypsy guy, which have a very bad reputation in the south of Spain. I see this man creeping onto me, and I said, "Oh." And initially I had a bad thought. He's gonna, rob me or mug me or whatever. And then I just took a deep breath, and I remember thinking, Holy Spirit, I want to see what you see. This was my thought. I want to see what you see. It was my way of saying I'm willing not to be right. Okay, I want to see past what I'm seeing. And the man comes to me and he says, "Give me your purse and give me your money." And I looked at him and I cracked up. I started laughing and I said, it came out of my gut. I said, "Brother," I said, "Hermano, brother, you think I have money? And I'm waiting for a bus. If I had money, I'd be in a taxi. And I was laughing, and immediately it was like a metamorphosis right in front of my face. And he smiled and he said, "You're so right. You shouldn't be around at this time. It's not safe for you." And there was a taxi passing by. He stopped the taxi and he put me in the taxi and paid the taxi money.
No way, what a
And he
nice
sent me
story.
home. He became my brother there and then,
Unbelievable.
See, this is a miracle. I'm so grateful that I was able to experience that. And it took only one thought. I'm willing not to be right. Because this brings the best out of whomever. And this person here, he might have thought that he was a thief, but I acknowledged him as my brother. I acknowledged him as innocent. And I even had a laugh. It was so organic. So, it was like, I wasn't making fun of him. I was just cracking up
Yes.
by the circumstance, I couldn't. And his response was immediate. I've told this story so many times and people say, "Really?" I said, "Yeah. I had a gypsy ex-thief, innocent brother put me in a taxi
Pay for it.
and paid for it." So this is how I want to live my life. Isn't this, because in this way, you have nothing to fear.
Fear.
Who would you be afraid of if everyone you see is perfect and innocent? Who would you have to protect yourself from, defend yourself from, if you cannot see attack, if you cast no judgment over anyone? And there are so many testimonials. There's one testimonial of this young boy, maybe 17. I was teaching in a prison for young men under 18 who had major crime records. Yes, these were killers, not thieves, killers, rapists, but mostly killers. These kids had 3, 4, 5 killings under their name, but they were under 18, so they were not in the big jail system. They were in a special prison for underaged men. So I was teaching and we had a class for a couple hours. It was a group of about 20 boys, and I had been told by the coordinator that I had to finish before 12, because if I didn't, the food was going to be served anyhow, and the food was going to get cold. So, I surrendered the time to the Holy Spirit, me with the time. It's very organic. I said, okay, I'm willing to be finished by 12. So when I finished the class and I looked what time is it was like 5 to 12. So I was very happy that they were going to have their meal, hot meal. And I said, okay, guys, I'm so happy and it's perfect timing and you can go and have your meal. And then one of the boys, and I remember him vividly, he was the scariest looking boy. He was really dark. He had a lot of tattoos and a lot of scars. He was like Scarface, like a big scar here and then another one. It was like, oh my goodness, he was scared. He was a scary looking boy. And he looked at me and I'm saying, yeah. And he said, oh, come on, teacher, think I want to eat? I'm not hungry. I've had so much love to eat. I'm just going to go have a rest. He said that. And this is like a killer, I will remember that forever, So this was many years ago, maybe 15 years ago, So this is what you want to see. Put yourself at the challenge. I used to put myself in the situation a lot in my early days. I would do a lot of volunteering and go to places where the people there were supposed to be bad. And I said, okay, and this was my challenge. I want to see what you see. This was my challenge, and I had so many rewards. I really understood this message. I want to see innocence and guiltlessness in everyone because I want to serve as an instrument. So I did a lot of this, but you don't have to go to a prison or to a rehab center to do this. You can do that in your own home.
You can just go to a gas station and feel love for the grumpy woman there.
For example.
However.
And see her not as grumpy, but as a call for love. Yes. See, what I love about this mind training program is that it's very practical. And if you commit to it, it will give you a response. And then there's, the every other person that says, oh, it hasn't worked for me. And that's fine. But it is using it that proved to you that it works. It's the only way. And it is a challenge to your honesty with yourself. It is an invitation to discover, what is it that I'm seeing? Am I willing to receive the messages of God truly? Is it true? And if I'm receiving them, how come I'm not seeing them? Maybe because I still want it to be right. It's interesting that you said what you said. It's a big challenge for you, no?
Mm-hmm.
But what is so interesting, at least for me, when I see you, is that you see it in yourself, honestly, no?
Yeah. I know. 45, I know who I am and how I roll. It's not that I might not be happy with it. I might like to change it, but I know it's there. So these are my challenges.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
I also know I always am not judgmental. And I always position like this, room, this girl you have renting room, if she had this tantrum, I always try to position myself in their shoes in a situation. It's like, okay, there's a reason why she's like that. And I just, I can feel sadness for the other person.
But we just want to feel love,
Yeah.
only love.
Yeah.
Because for a moment, my sister can have a tantrum because the Course calls it a call for love. It can be a tantrum, an anger attack, a sadness attack at a funeral. It can be anything. And you are the antidote to whatever is happening. You are the antidote because you are the messenger of the antidote that you have received for yourself. First, there's nothing you can extend if it's not first received by you. So, yes. And it says, it is this voice, and again, we go to the teacher from within. I'm reading from paragraph 4, line 2. It is this voice which speaks of laws the world does not obey, which promises salvation from all sin, with guilt abolished in the mind that God created sinless. So we are talking here particularly, and especially in the first aspect, the first part of the lessons of the Course in Miracles, we are called over, this one is very specifically, calling us to the voice that speaks for God. This is the Holy Spirit calling us to listen to the voice within of your inner teacher. Call it intuition, call it Holy Spirit, call it the divine translator, call it the voice. Many people just call it the voice, especially amongst the Spanish-speaking students. They say the voice. The voice told me, or I felt the voice was speaking to me. So this voice says, it speaks of laws the world does not obey. Let's stop there. Which laws are these? The laws of love. Does the world obey the laws of love? The world offers us a substitute for the true laws of love. And the substitute is the conditional love. The love that is conditioned by what you do, how you look, and what you've done. But these laws that the voice does not obey are these conditions that segregate and separate us into good and bad. We need the inner voice speaking to us about unconditionality. Make sense?
Yeah, it's just so weird that you say this because I'm having this whole discussion with my boyfriend about unconditional love. He says it doesn't exist, and I disagree. Yeah, every day. He says no, it doesn't exist. Yes.
Not in the world. Not in the world. Not in the world. The laws of the world are not the laws of love. But you are studying the laws of love, and he is not. So this is your challenge. By what you say, it's a great challenge because you can open your heart to unconditional love. And then nobody needs convincing. You know, in my house, for example, I have my son, who's now almost 29. This little boy is now almost 29, and he does not resonate with this. He loves me very much. I can see my upbringing in him, but he's into finances and into tattoos and into music. He's an artist mixed in with an intelligent guy for finances. Okay, so his gurus are the financial people who, you know, and then when he speaks to me of things that I'm not understanding or I'm bored with, I love him and I say, I'm not interested. And I walk away. Because I allow him to tell me the same. When I'm speaking and I'm, just going on spirituality, he says, wow, I'm not interested. Okay. And I'm not offended. So this is the thing. Who are we preaching to? We're not. This is not about preaching. This is about listening to the voice within. And here in this lesson, so beautifully written, it's talking about the inner voice that does not speak of the laws of this world. There is no unconditional love in the laws of this world. It's impossible. I wrote an article on that, actually a 3-piece article in Spotlight Ibiza. Maybe you want to look for it.
Yes.
Go into Spotlight Ibiza and I wrote it several years ago, but I think it's still on there. Carolina Corada, or put unconditional love, and maybe it will pop up. I thought I loved writing that article. They invited me to do it, and I did.
So cool.
And I think that this is a very simple and way of explaining unconditional love is not of this world. So actually he's right and you're not.
No, but I was speaking more about unconditional love you have for yourself.
Okay.
It's a different way of looking at it.
Yes, yourself.
And I also thought, I'm not a mother, but I can imagine that as a parent you feel unconditional love for your child.
Yeah.
And there he was like a little bit tipping over, like, I love my daughter.
Yeah, but
Regardless.
unconditional love has nothing to do with the identities that we seem to play. It goes beyond, because the unconditional love that the Holy Spirit sets in our heart speaks of that boy in that prison and that man in the bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to include everything. It cannot be conditioned by the relationships we have. So So yeah, not in this world, but you can see it here, but it's not of here because it does not respond to the laws of this world.
Yeah.
And this is why we need this relationship with that inner voice, because we don't really know how to deal with the world. But this voice from within does, and it will guide us. I love it because this is so perfect. Where it says, you go inside and you say, "What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom?" And then you listen. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? Where, no, what is it? What would you have me say, and to whom? Has to be our mantra to guarantee well-being. Because there you're being guided. Yeah, and this is how the ministers of God practice receiving answers, receiving guidance, and then finally receiving the gifts. But first, it's like we need to develop trust. Who am I talking to? What gifts? Where? Who? How? So there is a practice entailed, no?
Mm-hmm.
How do you see it?
Yeah.
So it tells us, now this mind becomes aware again of who created it and of his lasting union with itself. So is its self the one reality in which its will and that of God are joined. There's this idea, and we've lived it, even though I don't know how many of you are religious or Catholics or have other religions, but there has been a very terrifying God that many of us have been taught that has a will that is different to my will. I mean, I remember this, and I was never a Catholic girl, but I was born in a country that's very Catholic, and I was I was such a rebel, and I always thought that there was a God who had a will that had nothing to do with my will. So I was always thinking, I don't want to do God's will. I want to do my own will. The fuck? I'm not interested in God's will. But then as we practice the Course in Miracles and it sits in deeper within us, we realize that love's will is my will. Because I just want to be at peace. And that's love's will for me as well. I just want to be happy. The Course tells us love's will for you is perfect happiness. And I thought, oh, right. So I'm not in opposition to love's will. I'm not. But I thought for a while that I was, because the ego is in opposition to God's will. The ego does not want perfect happiness. It seems to want it, but it doesn't. The ego is the vampire sucking off, living off our conflict, living off our addictions, living off the life that is hurtful and deceitful. And that's where the ego is getting its nourishment. And then it gives us a few happy times, just so that we don't die, and because if it was all bad, we will probably let it go. No, I can't take it anymore. And we just let go. So we are allowing ourselves to be guided in order to be of service by receiving the gifts for us. It's almost our time. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I need to
1 minute.
run.
Okay, very well. So I'll just read the last paragraph 14, lesson 154. The last paragraph. The world recedes as we light up our minds and realize these holy words are true. They are the message sent to us today from our Creator. Now we demonstrate how they have changed our minds about ourselves and what our function is. For as we prove that we accept no will we do not share, our many gifts from our Creator will spring to our sight and leap into our hands, and we will recognize what we have received. I am among the ministers of God, and I'm grateful that I have the means by which to recognize that I am free. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mm.